Hello again, I am Blunty and I've been up since about 2 a.m. this morning, fresh off watching a few different keynote speaking things today. Started with Microsoft's and then I watched the tail end of Apple's from WWDC, then back to E3, just got done watching EA's presentation and I'm now watching the clock ticking down for Ubisoft's presentation, and then I'll wait again to see Sony's presentation from E3, but this video is about Microsoft's E3 presentation because I did promise to make one as soon as they were done. Now, I'm not going to dwell all over again on my thoughts about self-proclaimed hardcore gamers being completely spazzy and unreasonable and reacting before they think and simply not taking a simple, gentle, wait-and-see cognitive approach about gathering information and then generating an opinion. I've said and done all that in the previous videos, and some people are starting to complain that I was dwelling on that too much. But I will say this. I said right from the beginning that the Microsoft Xbox One reveal event was all about the other stuff, you know, the TV and the hardware and the console and the Skype and all that sort of stuff, because they wanted to get all that sort of stuff out of the way, so when E3 rolled around, they could talk about games and nothing but games, because that's what E3 is there for. That's E3's focused, games. And what did they do? They did exactly that. I was completely, 100%, unequivocally, unreproachably correct. And now I'm not saying I'm expecting apologies from people who freaked out at me, who flipped out at me, who derided me, who called me names, who questioned my intelligence and my integrity for suggesting such a thing. But I will say I deserve apologies. Not expecting them, because we all know hardcore gamers don't do that. They form an opinion and just stubbornly stick to it, or refuse to acknowledge they ever had that opinion if they then prove to be absolutely wrong. But right, correct. Correctamundo. So I'm not going to dwell on that. Now, I promised my thoughts on the Microsoft E3 presentation, so here are my thoughts on the Microsoft E3 presentation, which was all about games. I started out with Metal Gear Solid, which, well, the trailer, they literally had to fast forward through bits of the game when they were showing like proper gameplay from the thing, but it was so long and so boring. They themselves were fast forwarding through huge chunks of that initial playthrough, which says to me that it might be a bit of a boring game. And they were touting things like real-time events. So you're going to have to sit down in-game, just sit somewhere waiting for 30 minutes for something to happen? I'm not sure that's a really good thing for games. Anyway, might be a bit boring. I play games because I don't have to play them real time. Things can happen very exciting and fast and in your face and whatever. So then they got some Xbox 360 stuff out of the way just to reassure people who own 360s and are not intending to upgrade straight away wherever that the 360 is still part of the family. They're still developing games for the 360. It's got a brand new hardware model that apes the look of the Xbox One, a little more sleeker, a little simple, you know, gone are the curves of the other two models and all that sort of stuff, which is... yeah, fair enough, and it's supposed to be just as quiet and just as whatever, who cares? Then they talked about a few new approaches to Xbox Live Gold subscription memberships, and they're kind of doing, finally catching up with the PlayStation Plus kind of idea of handing out a few free classic games, or not classic, but older games to people every month. So Xbox Live subscribers now get 2 free games every month, which is awesome. Here's a good question though, with PlayStation Plus and now Xbox Live Gold doing the free game thing with a subscription fee, do you think it's sort of softening us up for a future where you never ever buy your games, it's all subscription based? I think it's sort of the first step along that sort of slippery slope to changing the entire sort of marketplace for gaming. I don't think it'll happen anytime really soon, but, you know, we're on those first few steps. And then they jumped into the Xbox One stuff at last. The reason we were all watching in the first place, to see what games were coming out on Xbox One and how they were going to play and how the gameplay experience would wrap around them and everything. And they said from the get-go, they've got more games in development for this thing than they have any other time in history. So lots and lots of games. They understand, unlike Nintendo, that there has to be lots and lots of games coming through for this thing constantly. Constant feed of new games, because we're all short attention spans. Play a game, throw it away, next game, please, yes, go. And again, I just want to point out, that's exactly what I said would happen. E3 would be all about the games, because they got all the other stuff out of the way with in the earlier events. So they didn't have to talk about stuff. It was all known and talked about and discussed already, so they could just focus on games. I don't want to dwell on it too much, but I was right, and I deserve an apology from a lot of you out there. You know it. And the next game they showed off was Rise, which was a sort of Roman gladiatorial combat type of open world slasher hacker thing. And the opening looked like any number of generic third person or first person shooters, really. You know, land on the beach, you jump out of the boat. It reminded me a lot of countless Normandy landing launches you saw in sort of the early to mid 90s, when there were a lot of World War II games coming out, and they all had the Normandy landing. You'd jump off the boat and go up to the shore and run up the beach, and it just reminded me a lot of that. And it seemed very, very generic, really. I'm not sure whether I'll be giving it a go. It just seemed kind of boring. And then I got interested, and then the battle started, and it was all quick time events. You go, press X, press X, press X, X, press Y, press Y, press Y. And I'm not sure I really am into that kind of gaming. It works when it's used sparingly, like in God of War, when you do the quick time events to finish off the bosses and stuff, so it looks all spectacular and you're not using, you know, your normal in-game moves and stuff. But it seemed like Rise was using it in every one-on-one confrontation, and I think that's going to get old really quick. Then they talked about a game that made my face go from this to this, because they talked about Killer Instinct. And I've loved Killer Instinct ever since it first hit the arcades. Ultra 64 came, remember that? Ultra 64, Nintendo 64, but Killer Instinct was, it was such a groundbreaking game. There was no other game anything remotely like it at the time. It was astonishing. And then the console ports came out, and they weren't quite as astonishing, because consoles of the day just didn't have the guts for it, really. Ever played the Game Boy version of Killer Instinct? Oh, what a terrible game that was. I wasted like $50 on that thing. Killer Instinct, brilliant! Game Boy, brilliant! Oh, I'll have it! Good, just strip it. Oh. But this new Killer Instinct looks like it almost looks like a HD remake of the original, which I'm all for, because I haven't played Killer Instinct in a long time, because it is fairly difficult to emulate if you're running sort of MAME arcade emulators or something like that. You know, it's a bit quirky to emulate to get it right, to get it playing smoothly, to get it playing like it did in the arcade. So I'm all about this new Killer Instinct, this what looks to be a HD remake with some extra polish and probably a lot of multiplayer stuff and online matches and all that sort of stuff. I'm desperately excited about it. It looked wonderful. You know, smile ear to ear for Killer Instinct as far as I'm concerned. Then came Sunset Overdrive, an open world shooter kind of multiplayer thing. It's from Insomnia Games and has one of those big open world, constantly evolving cloud-based game worlds apparently. And it kind of it has the sense of humour that we know and love from Insomniac's other games. And it had a bit of Shaun of the Dead about. There was a gun that fired records at zombies, which just made me think of that. You know, one of the most famous, one of the first desperately funny scenes in Shaun of the Dead, where it's just flinging old records at him, and it just reminded me of that. I'm sure it's a tribute to that in some way, shape or form, and it looks like a fun variant of that style of game. I'm desperately bored of zombie games in general, and there is even more zombie games coming through at this year's EA already. We'll probably get to one later on. But this looks like a zombie game that I could actually have some fun with, because it's got that Insomnia game sort of light-hearted Ratchet and Clank style stuff, you know. It doesn't take itself too seriously is what I'm trying to say, and I'll give it a go. Then we got some images of a desperately sexy McLaren racing car. There are only 2 of them in the world, and there was a deep voiceover saying hyperbolous and desperately cliche things that sounded tediously generic and boring and stuff. And then they showed us a bit of game footage from it. Ooh, it looks very, you know. Talking about Forza 5, by the way, here, if you haven't gathered already from the stuff on the screen, but they were talking about some new and interesting things they're doing in Forza 5, like a drivatar, an avatar driver thing. So it learns the way you drive, and when you're not playing the game, it goes online and plays on your behalf, using your driving style, and earning you points, which I assume you can spend in-game on upgrades or new cars or something along those lines. But it seems a very unique approach. It's innovation is the word I'm looking for, and there's a lot of, and they talked about a lot of that kind of stuff with the online and offline world sort of blending together and the line between them blurring, and it seems like a very, very interesting way to approach sort of that type of driving game. And I hope that someone out there is coming out with a really good steering wheel controller for this thing at launch for it, because you know, playing a game like that on the controller, it's just not the same. I like to have a steering wheel, even though they're big and they're clumsy and I've got no room to store the damn things, and I've got 2 of them in the cupboard over there that I don't use anymore. And anyway, the game looks cool. It looks desperately pretty, like unbelievably pretty. And this, you know, you can just get a sense of how pretty the games are going to look 2 or 3 years down the road, because we all know launch games are never representative of how pretty a game can possibly look. Pretty is everything, but pretty is nice. But yeah, if that's the starting point, I'm excited to see where the train goes from here. Then the Microsoft drone was on stage, and it was going on and on about how Microsoft are the most indie-friendly company in the universe. Indie-friendly? I'm not absolutely convinced about that, considering their fee structure for publishing and updating indie games on the Xbox Live service and all that sort of stuff. I don't think a lot of that is particularly friendly, but they are at least throwing a lot of money at these developers to make sure that they have a lot of games coming to the Xbox, and preferably exclusively to the Xbox One. Here's some money, just make a game for our machine. Here's some money, don't make it for the PlayStation 4. Oh, fucker. But you know, whatever. Oh, Minecraft. Yeah, more Minecraft. Making full use of the incredible new powerful Xbox One Minecraft, which is just there to say we have Minecraft on our machine and nobody else does on their machines. Yeah, except the PC players who've been playing it for a long time and can do really cool mods and stuff like that, and or iOS, you can play it on iOS as well. But we're the only TV console you can get Minecraft for, unless of course you attach your computer to TV and then play Minecraft. Who cares? I'm already sick of hearing about Minecraft. I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there who desperately love Minecraft, but I'm bored of it. Quantum Break was next. It looks really interesting, playing with time, which is always kind of a fun thing to do, and something you can do sort of uniquely in a video game, interactive playing with time. And it looks fairly fantastic. Basically, the story goes that some dude had some sort of scientific experiment, and he just fucked up time, basically. Now it stops and stutters and goes backwards and forwards and freezes, and wacky shit happens, and your job is to grab a gun and shoot things until the time is fixed, or something along those lines. Oh, time is broken, I better shoot that guy. Pew! I'm not really sure how the game is supposed to progress, but apparently you play a guy and he's got a gun and you've got to fix time somehow. Again, it looks desperately pretty though. It looks really interesting, and you know, lots of little particle effects as things track through the air in slow motion, and things explode in super slow motion, then freeze and then flicker backwards. And it looks pretty cool. Then there was something called D4, which had some kind of weird and half-broken looking cell shading stuff going on. I thought we were much better at cell shading than this game showed by now. I'm not sure why it looks so goofy and so sort of 1997 sort of cell shading about it, but also, apparently some sort of episodic murder mystery thing, which I'm not interested in at all, basically. Project Spark was next, and that looks very interesting. It's sort of halfway between Minecraft and Little Big Planet, with a sense of Fable in it. And I say sense of Fable because the art style reminded me a lot of sort of Fable 2 and to some extent Fable 3. It looked a little bit like that world in just the way it looked, but you know, obviously it plays completely different. It's not a, well, basically Little Big Planet style thing with a different approach. You can build your own games, and you can use Kinect voice commands. You go, I want a mountain over there, please, and the thing goes, here's a mountain for you, and now make a river and put a troll in, make a gate and a bridge and shit. And you can use Microsoft Glass to sort of poke and fiddle around with it and fine-tune it. And just like Little Big Planet, I'm expecting amazing things from it. Little Big Planet was kind of the same thing. When you first got the game, you got this toolkit and you go, oh, you can do this and this and this, and you go, oh, that's fine, that was a bit of fun. And then someone in the community came out and they go, well, I've recreated this thing inside it and it's completely playable and it works, and you go, how the fuck did he do that? That's brilliant! And I'm expecting the same sort of thing from Project Spark. It seems like it could be a lot of fun for a lot of people, but there will be a small handful of people out there who will do incredible things with it. And I suspect it's going to be very popular. Very popular. Then they had a brief little breather where they sort of bounced briefly over as a little reminder of some of the architecture things. They talked about the SmartGlass stuff and sort of glanced over Kinect. There was very little Kinect talk in this thing at all. Did you notice? I think they've cottoned on to the fact that, you know, the core gamer demographic doesn't give a single fuck about Kinect. So there seemed to be no Kinect stuff going on. There was talk about Smart Match, where you can go, well, I'm going to play this game while you sit there waiting for me to find an appropriate match, multiplayer match in this game. And then it tells you when it, oh, I found there's a match ready for you to play, and you can stop playing one game and start playing the other game and go straight into the match, which is another benefit of having everything installed, by the way. That's why things are sitting on the hard drive instead of you having to swap disks. You know, I know people are saying, well, that's a bit PC-like, isn't it? I just want to put in a disc and play a console. That's how consoles are always supposed to work. That's how they've always worked. Well, things are changing now that you're on the hard drive. You can do clever stuff like smart matching stuff. Play one game while another game is seeking out a multiplayer match for you. I think that's quite sensible. I think it's awesome. I think people are going to love it once they stop whining about it. And they talked about the game DVR stuff. They didn't really go into any details yet about how it actually works or how much gameplay it records in the background. Is it, you know, 10 minutes or half an hour or infinite? Can you go back for as long as you've been playing the game? I don't know. That stuff will probably come out in press releases and interviews and stuff later on. But there's a built-in editor, so you can edit stuff. You can add in commentary over the top of it and then upload it. I don't think they mentioned where you can upload it to. Probably to the Xbox Live Gold service. It's probably going to have a dedicated little area. I don't know whether you can go out to, you know, YouTube or indeed Twitch. Oh, and on Twitch there is Twitch integration as part of this sort of game DVR stuff. You can just go Xbox stream game thing, and it will just stream your game straight to Twitch, the most popular game streaming kind of platform out there, which is fantastic. How easy is that? Don't even have to go into a menu. Or this is where the voice command stuff is handy. You know, don't have to stop playing. Don't have to find a menu and go into the sub menu and start streaming. You just go, stream it, bitch, and it streams. And that's brilliantly easy. I'm starting to turn around on this voice command stuff now that stuff like this is becoming apparent. I think that's brilliant. Then they showed a trailer for something called Prince and Dragon, which had no sound thanks to a rather stupid technical hitch, which happened again later on in the show when they were showing something else, but they fixed it they had to stop and fix it by then. But yeah, it was just a completely silent trailer with a bunch of dragons flying around and shooting other dragons. Yes, another zombie game. Open world zombie fighting game. What was it called again? Which one was it? Dead Rising 3. I don't really care much. But yeah, as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I know a lot of people love this series as well, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm so bored of zombies, and I have been for a long time now, so Dead Rising, it's no interest for me whatsoever. Although in the gameplay demo, they showed, you know, he was running through and jumping up on cars and trying to avoid zombies, and had some interesting weapon mechanics where you could staple two weapons together, and, you know, it looked fairly amusing. At one point, he threw a chainsaw sledgehammer kind of construction across the road and sliced a zombie completely in half, which is very, very amusing, but still not my kind of game, really. There was a point at the end where he, you know, got on the phone or something and called in an artillery strike on his own position. Who does that? Yeah, I'm surrounded by zombies. Could you please drop half a dozen highly explosive bombs on top of my head? Because I need to get rid of the zombies. Oh, that will kill me too? Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Oh, you've already sent them? Bugger. Bye. Then there was Witcher 3, an open world RPG, questing, non-linear adventure style gaming thing, which to me looked a little bit generic. I have to admit, I haven't played any of the other Witcher titles, and again, I know that there are some people out there who quite like them, and I saw a lot of people on Twitter as I was watching this get quite excited about it, so I assume it's a very popular game. Maybe I'll give it a go. But anyway, I'm not that interested at the moment. They didn't wow me up for that one. Then came Battlefield 4, which they introduced and said, this is Battlefield 4, it runs at 60 frames a second, as apparently quite a few games will do from now on. Finally, again, they listened. And now someone next door is using a vacuum cleaner, which is destroying my audio. Sorry about that, but I'm going to keep going because I've only got 6 minutes to go till I have to watch the streaming from Ubisoft. But anyway, it started off with no sound on the trailer. Again, they screwed up the sound. They went, oh, we're going to fix that. And then it was a desperately awkward, like 3 minutes when they were trying to figure it out. And then it started playing proper, and it looked wonderful and beautiful. I'm more of a sci-fi shooter fan myself, but I think I might give Battlefield 4 a try. Particularly what I saw a few hours later in EA's own press conference thing, where they showed a lot more of it and some actual gameplay and things like that, and it looked amazing, really. It looked astounding, and, you know, yes, it's yet another real world based shooter, but at least it's smarter than Call of Duty. Plus, in the gameplay they showed at the Microsoft thing, someone killed a bunch of enemies by squishing them with a plane. They were on a flight deck, and they shot the moorings of a plane, and the plane slid down and squished all the enemies into little stains of paste on the flight deck, which sold me immediately. You know, if I can kill people with planes, just squishing them with planes, just spreading them out on the flight deck in a thin film of greasy red blood, that's something I would like to do. Now that I say it out loud, it sounds kind of sociopathic, but still, seems like fun to me. Then there was something called Below, which seemed interesting, but it was an extremely brief preview, so I don't know what to say about that. And they were talking about brand new AAA titles that they're inventing, and they sort of name-dropped Halo in there. And then there was something from a company called Black Tusk, which I've never heard of. Am I out of the loop on that? Never heard of them before. Black Tusk. They didn't name what the game was, but they showed a bit of it, or a bit of pre-rendered stuff about it. I have no idea what it's about, or what I was supposed to think about it, but there was just kind of there, go, well, we're not ready to show you this, but something's coming from us, and it looks a little bit like this. So, then they rolled straight into a trailer where it was just a cloaked guy wandering around in a big desert, and all I could think to myself was that line from Aladdin, like the Disney movie Aladdin. You know, this game brought to you by sand, it's everywhere, get used to it. As it went along, there was a few hints, and then a ship rose out of the desert, and we saw the guy's glove when he holding something in his hand, and the ship came out, and I went, I know that shape. that shape looks familiar. And then he pulled the hood off and, oh, it's Master Chief, or at least a Spartan of some description, likely Master Chief. New Halo coming, big surprise, new Xbox machine, new Halo game. Shocked, I know, you're all surprised that they would continue milking this cash cow for as long as possible, but they are. Halo's coming, I'm excited about it. I'll just mute my TV over there because the Ubisoft stream is about to happen, so I'm going to run through the rest of these. Halo runs 60 frames per second, cloud gaming, dedicated servers, coming in 2014. Then they showed a bit how gameplay will evolve. It's coming out in November, 499 American dollary dues, which probably means it'll be somewhere close to $650 by the time it gets to Australian shores, I would guess. I hope not, because the dollar is pretty close to parity these days, so, you know, 550 Australian, 600 maybe. 579 would be my solid bet is where it's going to land here. 579, that's where I'm putting my my bet on. That's how much it'll cost here in Australia, I reckon. Oh, then they showed Tinfall. Mechs and soldiers and action, and it was desperately cool, and they showed even more of that in the EA presentation. Maybe I'll do a dedicated video all about Titanfall, but it looked awesome. Giant mechs and soldiers and jumping around and double jumping with jetpacks and wall running, and I'm all about that stuff. Titanfall has me very excited for whatever it winds up being. It looks like a hell of a lot of fun. Anyway, the Ubisoft presentation is about to start. I am out of material. That was my reaction to E3's press conference. And again, I told you so. All about games, and it wasn't filled with Kinect stuff, and it wasn't talking about TV, and it was just all games, all the time, nothing but games. I told you so. Anyway, gotta go. Ubisoft is starting. E3 presentation, Microsoft, Xbox One. Now, I'm excited about the machine. Now, I know what the gameplay experience is going to be like, or at least the first suggestion of what it's going to become. And yes, I'm excited about it. But later on today, I get to watch what PlayStation do with the PlayStation 4. That I'm more excited about, because I'm already excited about the PlayStation 4. More so than the Xbox One to begin with. So this console race is starting to get very, very interesting as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, gotta go. Bye. Thanks for watching. I'm Blunty. Catch you next time. Ubisoft. Go.